Unit 3, Video 22, Panic of 1819, Video 2. We're going to finish the Panic of 1819 today. Forget about the American system. So what did the government mess up? We talked about how the commodity depression and the manufacturing commercial depression, not necessarily the government's fault. Well, not so fast. The government's not going to get off the hook. And we've already alluded to some of the monetary policies in previous videos of it shouldn't be happening. So the government is printing a bunch of money. That's the Bank of the United States. That is the state banks. It's the wildcat banks. Basically, everyone is printing too much money, just pumping it out. Now, you might say, why is it bad to print a bunch of money? How many times have we answered this video or this question in the video? Everyone's always asking, you can't just print a bunch of money. So the money, it's okay to print money as long as the money that you print is backed up by silver. The money is simply a receipt, a paper document saying I've got one gold silver coin specie in the bank, and you take that receipt or that dollar and they will give you the specie. That's it. It's just a marker, a receipt for that. So you can't print money that doesn't have a backup. Here's how it works. So if a farmer has a dollar bill, and you can't do this anymore, but you used to be able to, and you'd exchange that Federal Reserve note or that dollar, and you would get your specie, or silver coin or gold coin. That's it. Perfect. Awesome. So for every dollar bill printed, there was silver or gold backing it up. There was never too much, too little. Well, I mean, there could be too much or too little, just depending on how much silver or gold you had in your vault. Well, the thing is, man, if we just had more money, if we could just print more money, people could buy more things. Well, you can't print money that's not backed up, because here's what would happen. Let's imagine that the bank just starts churning out money, printing money. People have the money. People believe that this dollar bill is backed up by silver or gold. I can take it to the bank and exchange it. So these guys say, let's go exchange our paper money and get the silver coins or gold coins that we're entitled to. Here it is. Boom. We don't got it. Sorry, we were just printing a bunch of money. That's going to cause severe problems. If people exchange their money asking for their gold or silver coins, well, the bank doesn't have any money. It is found out, it is now known that the bank doesn't have any money. And if the bank doesn't actually have any money, then the bank can't loan. A bank can't loan you money if it doesn't have money. And also, the bank can't pay back the depositors, the people that put their money in the bank, that save their money, and they say, hey, I need my money back now. The bank can't pay them back either. So if the bank can't do its only job, which is to give loans and to pay back its depositors, then the bank really doesn't exist and the bank goes out of business. And that happens when a bank prints money that it doesn't have. If the bank only printed money that was backed up, it never happens. People come say, hey, I want my coin. There's your coin. Not a problem. No problem. The problem happens when, we have money that's not backed up. This is going to be a serious problem today. Anyway, what happens then is if the banks fail and the banks go under, then money is not going to be the kind. If you don't have banks, you don't have loans. If you don't have loans, then the scenario where you buy a farm, it's not going to happen. You can't buy a farm if you can't borrow money. You can't expand your business if you can't borrow money. There's a lot of things in the economy that just will not happen. And most of those are farms and businesses. And when those businesses go, then guess what? All the people that could work there or did work there, they're gone. Basically, it destroys the economy. It will cause a recession. It will cause a depression. This is what will happen if you print a bunch of money. If you print money that's backed up by coins, you never run into this. But if you don't have the specie or the silver coin or the gold coin to back it up, you're going to have some problems. And guess what? In the Panic of 1819, they had some problems. So let's get to it. You got the Bank of the U.S., and then you have their Western Bank, and you have their Southern branch of the bank. The main bank of the U.S., second bank of the U.S., they're not completely evil. They've got their problems. They know that, we printed too much money. We do not have enough specie in our vaults to back up the money that's in circulation. We know we made a mistake, but we're going to try to work on it. That's a big mistake, by the way, but it's nothing compared to what these other fools are doing, because the Southern Bank and the Western Bank, not only we kind of got too much money in circulation, they're just out there printing and printing and printing money and giving money away. And we just talked about how that can have a serious problem if people want their money back and there's not enough money to back it up, and the banks die, and with the banks, the economy dies. So that's scary. That's a big problem. The Bank of the U.S. realizes that and sees what the Southern Bank is doing and sees what the Western Branch are doing. It's like, we got a problem. But it's worse because people are borrowing money from the Western Branch or the Southern Branch. Eventually, this phony, funny money that's not backed up by anything circulates and works its way to the East, Whereas people are going to the Eastern Branch Bank, which really isn't doing anything evil, but they're saying, hey, here's the money that I got from the Western Bank of the United States of America. You have to give me the silver coin for this. And they do. And so now the bank that really wasn't printing money like at an alarming crazy rate like these fools, well, now their specie deposits, their vaults are emptying because of their foolish practices. So at this point, the bank's like, look, you guys have got to stop. Western Bank, Southern Bank, you got to stop. This is going to collapse the system. You got to stop. And they basically say, nah. They completely refuse. They deny the request, and they keep printing money. So now the Bank of the U.S. thinking, well, if you guys just stop, maybe we can prevent this problem. Maybe we can slow it down. Well, they won't do it. So now the Bank of the United States, they've got to do something. They know what's going to happen. If you continue to print money that is not backed up, you're going to collapse the system. You can't keep doing this. There's not enough specie to back up the dollars. We've got to even this out. We've got to make it so that the dollar bills are somewhat closely linked to the silver, or slowly linked to the gold. Otherwise, people come in, want their gold coins, and it's going to collapse the economy. We've got to do something. We've got to suck the money out, right? There's too much cash. There's too many dollar bills. There's too much funny money. They've got to suck the money out. You don't really suck the money out. You can't steal the people's money. What they can do, though, is stop the money from flowing in. They can turn off the faucet, turn off the spigot. You might not be able to suck it out, but we can stop money from going in. And so they've got to pull a move to get the cash out, or at least stop the flooding of cash throughout the system. So they can't do anything with the Western Branch or the Southern Branch, so they will turn to the state banks. The state banks get their money from the Bank of the United States. The Bank of the United States has already loaned money to the state banks. The state banks then loan that out to people. That's how the banking monetary system works. Well, what the Bank of the United States is going to do is say, hey, we need that loan back. Now, they also loan specie or specie. Who comes up with these words? We got to get that loan back. This is going to be the Bank of the U.S.'s plan to turn the spigot off, turn off the faucet, suck the money out. They're going to say, state banks, you got to pay us back. We're trying to get the money out of the economy. Because if you can get the money from the state banks, then the state banks can't lend to people. And if people don't have it, you're going to take the money out. That's how they do it. And what they say is, look, you got to pay it back. And not only got to pay it back, you got to pay it back with specie because they need the silver. They need that. We'll talk more about why they really specifically need the specie. And plus, if they don't have, these state banks are legit. They're honest. They're following the rules to a degree. So if they don't have the silver, then they're not going to be able to print the money. The paper money is worthless. You don't really want that. So the bank's like, oh no, what are we going to do? But the thing is, if you can get the silver from the state banks, then the state banks will not be able to print much money, less money, things will even out, crisis averted. Well, not really. So this is their plan for sucking the money out or turning off the spigot. And it kind of makes sense, but it's probably too much too late. Not too little too late. It's too late, and this is going to be very severe. So what they do is they go to the state banks and say, give us the silver coins. Well, the banks are going to have to get the silver coins from someone else. They've got to get the money from the people that they loan to. And so some farmers, most are not going to have it. Some are going to have the ways to pay back their loans. Other farmers are not going to have specie. They're not going to have the coins. And so they'll have to take their farm. They will foreclose on their farm or whatever property. The bank's going to take whatever they can of value to make up for it because they got to pay back the federal government. So it all flows downhill. There's so many foreclosures. There's so much taking from the state banks, taking from the people, that half of the city of Cincinnati will be foreclosed upon. Half of the real estate in Cincinnati, half, a major city, is owned by the Bank of the United States of America. Imagine that. You're living in a major city, and then half of the stores are owned by the government. Half of people's homes are owned by the government. That's a problem. This is a giant economic collapse. Yes, sucking the money out prevented the banks from going down and the whole money situation that we talked about from collapsing the economy. But they created a whole nother problem because what they did was they sucked out half the economy. Half of the money in the economy, poof, gone. The next closest thing was the Great Depression, where half of the country's wealth evaporates overnight because, well, there's two things. One, they printed too much money. And then two, to stop from having too much money, they tried to take out too much money. That never works. And yet our government continually tries it. Like right now, we're in a situation where we're printing too much money. If we try to stop slowly, maybe things will be all right. But we're printing too much money. If we suck all the money out of the economy, we will have a collapse, something comparable to the Great Depression or the Panic of 1819. You say, well, we'll never do that. We've done this before, and we've repeated this mistake before. Half the economy goes out. The economy crashes in the Panic of 1819. Inflation followed by deflation is a terrible, terrible idea. And you would think, well, the Panic of 1819 would have told them, but they did the same exact thing 100 years later and caused the Great Depression, which lasted 15, almost 20 years. All they had to do was look at the Panic of 1819. It's like, yeah, well, we screwed up by printing too much money. The only way we can make it worse is by sucking all the money out. Well, let's suck all the money out. That's what they did. Did it, probably we're going to do it again. It's been about 100 years, 1819, 1930. Here we are about 100 years later. Let's just go ahead and do the same thing again. Now, another problem. Let's talk about some more mistakes that are going on. So that's one mistake. They kind of tried to get along and figure out. So we got wildcat banks. Banks are just popping up out of nowhere. We talked about these in the last video. There was demand for loans, and so you created all these banks. And these banks were allowed to do this illegal printing of fake money because the government looked the other way. Why would the government look the other way? They're printing fake money, making loans. Why would you let them do this? Well, if the fake money works, if people believe in the fake money, then it's kind of okay. So, well, it's not okay, but it's working in the meantime. So what's happening is the fake money is being printed. It's being loaned to the farmers. The farmers are buying the land from the government, and the government's making money off of this. The government's selling land. The government cannot sell land if the fake money is not printed. If it's not for the fake money, they can't borrow. If they can't borrow, they can't buy the land from the government. The government can't pay for its stuff. Yeah, but the government knows it's fake money. Yeah, but then the government just spends it just like everybody else. Everybody knows the money is fake, and that's the problem. Once everyone starts to realize the money's fake, the jig is up, and the economy will collapse. And the government knew this was going on. They knew they had to stop the wildcat banks, but they couldn't stop them. They wouldn't let it happen because they were making too much money, but it wasn't even real money. The American system by Henry Clay was supposed to prevent this. It's supposed to create a system of banking that was going to monitor these wildcat banks, monitor these state banks. And it did none of the such. It knew what was going to happen and just let it happen. Let's talk about sucking more money out of the economy. We've got to pay back our Louisiana Purchase. We bought the Louisiana Purchase from France. How did we get that money? We borrowed the money. So we're not broke. The problem is we need money to pay for this. And we need specie to pay for this. And where's the bank U.S. going to get the money? From the people, from the banks, so that we can pay off our loans, like taxing, borrowing. They're going to figure out a way to take it from the people to pay off their debt. And they got to do it in specie. They borrowed money from American banks. They borrowed money from European banks. They used that money to buy the Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon. Cool. Awesome. Now it's time to pay them back. All right, here's some of that fake money. Not so fast. We're not taking your fake money, America. You're going to pay us in silver. You're going to pay us in gold. And you're going to pay us in specie. You're not going to give us that funny money that's worthless and no one wants it. So you're going to give us the coins. So the bank's like, ugh. So they've got to get coins. And so we go back to the situation before where they've got to knock on the door of the state bank, say, pay up. And the state bank's got to knock on the door of the people, say, pay up. It flows down. This whole thing's a house of cards, right? So they got to get the money to pay them. They got to get the money to pay them. They got to get the money to pay them. But really what is happening in this situation, where is all of our money going now? All the specie, all the coins are going to Europe. And where are the coins? Not the money's no longer in America. Turn the vacuum on. Turn the spigot off. The cash is drying up. The cash is evaporating. The money is gone. And we know that when you put money in the economy, loans to banks, to factories, to workers, all the economy flows by getting money into the economy. But when you suck that money out, you have deflation. There's less spending, less buying, less jobs, the economy. Now, some deflation's okay, but when you suck it all out, you take away all the jobs and everything goes away, and it collapses totally. It doesn't have to be boom, pow, pow. That's what happens. Well, it's Europe for demanding those loans. Europe had the right to demand the loans. We were supposed to keep the money safe. We were not supposed to spend the money. It's just like you, when your bill comes up and you've got to pay for your house, you got to pay for your car. Like, I can't pay it. I spend it on something else. What do you mean you spend it on something else? That's America. We knew we had the Louisiana Purchase debt coming up. We knew we had to pay that bill. We knew we needed to save the specie in our vaults, but we spent it anyway. And you say, well, it's because there was a mining shortage. Well, we had time to plan to figure it out. We could have figured something out instead of at the last minute just sucking all the money out of the economy and collapsing the economy. And the Bank of USA looks at these other guys and is like, look, you loaned paper money and you didn't have specie to back it up. You terrible wildcat banks, you terrible state banks, you terrible Western branch, you terrible Southern branch of the Bank of the United States of America. You did the exact same thing. All the banks did the exact same thing.